She had rehearsed the proposal 14 times in the mirror that morning, changed her dress 3 times, switched the ring box from her left pocket to her right pocket and back again because she could not figure out which hand would tremble less. And when the moment finally came, when she lowered herself onto one knee in front of her mother, her father, her older brother, 2 aunts, and the family attorney who had no business being at a dinner like this, but always seemed to be, she held out a ring that cost more than most people's homes and looked up at the man who had driven her to every board meeting, every investor dinner, every quiet midnight ride when the weight of being Elena Castillo became too much to carry alone. He looked at the ring. He looked at her. And then he said 3 words that stopped every sound in that room. Hey, keep the ring. He set the box on the table gently, like it was something fragile that did not belong to him, turned around, and walked out of the most expensive dining room in Greenwich, Connecticut, without looking back once. And the thing that no one at that table understood, the thing that Elena herself would not understand for another 11 days, is that Marcus did not walk away because he didn't love her. He walked away because he loved her too much to be part of what that moment had actually become. But we need to go back 8 months before that dinner, before the ring, before the proposal that wasn't really a proposal. Back to the morning Elena Castillo met a man who had absolutely no interest in impressing her. Elena was 34 years old and worth, depending on which publication you believed, somewhere between $6 and $9 billion. She had built a biotech firm from a patent she filed at 23, survived 2 hostile takeover attempts by the time she was 30, and had been on the cover of enough magazines that she stopped keeping copies. Her calendar was managed by 3 people, her security detail was managed by 2 more, and her personal driver, the one she'd had for 6 years, quit on a Tuesday because he'd gotten a better offer from a Saudi prince who needed someone for a yacht in Monaco. Her chief of staff sent over a replacement the next morning. Marcus Cole, 31, former military. No social media presence. A background check so clean it almost looked suspicious. He showed up at her Manhattan penthouse at exactly 6:15 in the morning, which was when he'd been told to arrive, and wearing a dark suit that fit well but was not expensive, holding the door open before she reached the car. She said good morning. He said good morning, Ms. Castillo, and that was the entire conversation for the first 3 days. Elena was used to people performing for her. Every interaction she had was laced with agenda. People laughed too quickly at things she said. They agreed too easily. They angled their chairs toward her in meetings and mirrored her body language and used her first name too soon because some article told them it built rapport. Marcus did none of this. He drove. He held the door. He said good morning and good evening, and occasionally asked if she wanted the temperature adjusted. He did not ask about her work. He did not compliment her outfit. And he did not try to make small talk about the news or the weather or whatever restaurant she was heading to that night. At first it irritated her. Then it fascinated her. By the second week, she started leaving her phone in her bag during the rides, not checking her email, just sitting in the quiet of the back seat, watching the city move by, aware of the fact that she was sharing space with someone who wanted absolutely nothing from her. That, for Elena Castillo, was the rarest thing in the world. It was the 4th week when the first real conversation happened. A meeting had gone badly. A regulatory filing she had spent 3 months preparing was rejected on a technicality, and the lawyer responsible had stammered through an excuse that made her want to throw her phone through a window. She got into the car that evening and exhaled the kind of breath that carries everything you have been holding since morning. Marcus glanced in the mirror, just once, and said, "Rough one?" 2 words, no performance, no agenda, just a human being recognizing that another human being was tired. And Elena, for the first time in longer than she could remember, answered honestly. "Yeah," she said, "really rough." He nodded, pulled into traffic, and after a long pause said, "My mother used to say that the hardest days are the ones that are trying to teach you something. She said you will not learn the lesson while you are still angry about the class." Elena almost smiled. "That is either very wise or very annoying," she said. He glanced in the mirror again. Probably both, he said. And that was the night Elena Castillo started looking forward to getting in the car. The conversations grew slowly, the way real things do. He told her about his mother, who raised him alone in Baltimore after his father left. He told her about the military, not the heroic parts, but the long, boring stretches and the way silence sounds different when it might be the last quiet you hear. He told her about the book he was reading, always a different one, tucked into the driver's side door pocket. She told him things she had not said out loud to anyone, that she was tired of being managed, that her family treated her like a portfolio, not a person, that she had not had a meal with someone who did not want something from her in so long that she had forgotten what it felt like to be hungry and just eat. He listened the way most people do not, without planning his response, without waiting for a gap to insert himself. He just listened, and sometimes he said something that landed so precisely it stayed with her for days. 5 months in, she knew. She knew by the way her chest tightened when his day off came and a replacement driver showed up. She knew by the way she started scheduling evening events further from Manhattan just to make the rides longer. She knew by the way she watched his hands on the steering wheel and thought about what they would feel like holding hers. She also knew it was impossible, not because of money, not because of status. Elena Castillo did not care about those things the way her family did. It was impossible because she was his employer, because any move she made carried the weight of power she did not ask for, but could not put down. Because if she told him how she felt and he said no, he would lose his job. And if she told him how she felt and he said yes, nobody would ever believe it was real. But love, real love, does not care about your reasons for waiting. Let me ask you something before we go on. If you were Elena, if you had all the power in the dynamic and you knew that any confession could look like coercion, would you say something? Or would you let it go and spend the rest of your life wondering? Tell me in the comments, because I think the answer says something about who you are. It was month 6 when Elena's mother, Patricia Castillo, noticed. Patricia had built her life on the architecture of appearances. She married into the Castillo name, multiplied its influence through social engineering that she disguised as philanthropy, and she had spent 30 years making sure her family occupied the right rooms, sat at the right tables, and married the right people. She had already selected 3 potential matches for Elena: a tech founder from Palo Alto, a venture capitalist from London, a senator's son who was handsome in photographs and empty in conversation. And now here was her daughter, the crown jewel of the family, smiling at her phone during a family brunch. And when Patricia leaned over to see who she was texting, the contact name said only M. Patricia did what Patricia always did. She investigated, and within 48 hours, she knew everything. Marcus Cole, the driver, Baltimore, military, a mother who worked 2 jobs and died when he was 26. No family money, no connections, no pedigree. Patricia did not confront Elena. That would be clumsy. And instead, she arranged a private meeting with Marcus. It happened on a Thursday morning in a cafe near the garage where he picked up the car each day. Patricia arrived with the family attorney. She sat across from Marcus, ordered nothing, and placed a single envelope on the table. $5 million, she said. You resign today. You tell Elena you found a better opportunity, and you disappear from her life completely and permanently. Marcus looked at the envelope. He did not touch it. And what if I say no? He asked. Patricia leaned forward. Then I will make sure you never work for anyone in this city again. I will make sure every background check surfaces something that makes employers uncomfortable. And I will make sure that Elena understands you were never what she thought you were. Marcus sat with that for a moment, a long moment. The kind of silence that has weight. Then he said, your daughter deserves someone who is honest with her. I hope someday that includes you. He stood up and walked out, left the envelope on the table untouched. That was Thursday morning. Thursday evening, Elena told him she needed him to drive her to Greenwich that weekend, a family dinner. Important. Something in her voice sounded different, rehearsed. nervous in a way he had never heard from a woman who stared down boardrooms without flinching. On Saturday, he drove her to the estate. He opened her door. She asked him to come inside, not to wait in the car, to come to the table. He hesitated. "Please," she said, and the way she said it was not a command. It was a question. He walked in, and within 20 minutes, Elena Castillo was on one knee in front of her entire family, holding open a ring box, looking up at him with eyes that wanted so desperately for this to be the answer to everything. But Marcus had spent 2 days carrying a weight she did not know about. The envelope. The threat. Her mother's words across that cafe table. And now here was Elena, proposing on the same weekend, in front of the same mother who had tried to buy him off 48 hours earlier. And Patricia was sitting right there at the table, watching, not surprised, not angry, watching with the calm expression of someone who had set up the entire sequence. It hit Marcus all at once. This was a test, not Elena's test. Patricia's. She had offered him the money knowing he would refuse. She had then told Elena about the meeting, framing it as proof of her concern. And Elena, furious at her mother, had decided to propose immediately, publicly, defiantly in front of the whole family, to prove that no amount of interference could stop her. But the proposal was not about Marcus. Not really. It was about Elena proving a point to Patricia. He was the instrument of her defiance, not the subject of her love. She loved him. He believed that. But in this moment, she was using the proposal as a weapon in a war with her mother. And Marcus Cole was not a weapon. He looked at the ring. He looked at Elena. He set the box down gently. "Keep the ring," he said, and he walked out. He did not go back to the penthouse. He did not answer her calls. He returned the company car to the garage, left the keys on the dashboard, and took a train to Baltimore that night. If you are feeling something right now, if this story has a grip on you that you were not expecting, that is exactly why Empire Stories TV exists. This is what we do here. Stories that get under your skin and stay. If you are not subscribed yet, now is the moment, because the rest of this one is going to stay with you. Elena did not understand at first. She thought it was pride. She thought he could not handle a woman proposing. She thought maybe her mother had been right and he was not strong enough for her world. She spent 4 days angry. On the 5th day, she replayed every conversation she had ever had with him. The one about honesty, the one about his mother, who told him that the way you do something matters more than what you do. The one where he said, "I never want to be the reason someone does not recognize themselves in the mirror." And on the 6th day, so she sat alone in the back of the car with a new driver who said all the right things and asked about her day and complimented the weather, and she hated every second of it. She called her mother. "What exactly did you say to him?" Elena asked. Patricia hesitated, which was something Patricia never did. "I offered him money to leave," Patricia said. "He refused." Elena's voice was steady, but something underneath it was breaking. "And then you told me about it. Before the dinner. You told me what you did because you knew exactly what I would do next." Patricia said nothing. "You knew I would propose," Elena said. "You set the whole thing up. If he took the ring, he was performing for the audience, and you could say he was bought after all. If he rejected it, he was gone. Either way, you win." There was a long silence on the line. "Elena," Patricia said, "I was protecting you." "No," Elena said. "You were protecting the story you tell about our family. And Marcus saw through all of it before I did." She hung up. On the 11th day, Elena Castillo did something she had never done in her entire adult life. She drove herself. She got behind the wheel of a rental car, no security, no assistant, no chief of staff. She drove 4 hours to Baltimore. She found the address she had pulled from his old employment file, a small brick row house with a green door and a window box that had flowers in it, which for some reason made her throat tighten. She knocked. Marcus opened the door. He looked tired. Not angry, just tired in the way people look when they have done the right thing and it has cost them everything. Elena did not have a speech prepared. For the first time in her life, she had no rehearsal, or no script, no strategy. She said, "I did not come here to offer you anything. I do not have a ring. I do not have a plan. I do not even know if you will let me stand here long enough to finish talking." She took a breath. "You were right," she said. "That proposal was not about you. It was about me proving something to my mother, and I used you to do it. And that is the one thing you told me you would never accept from anyone. I am not here to propose again. I am here to ask if you will let me sit on your porch and have a conversation with you, not as your employer, not as a Castillo, just as someone who misses talking to you more than she has ever missed anything." Marcus did not respond right away. He looked at her rental car parked crooked at the curb. He looked at her shoes, which were wrong for this neighborhood and scuffed from the walk-up. He looked at her face, which had no makeup on it, which he had never seen before. He stepped aside and held the door open. "Not the porch," he said. "Come inside. I just made coffee." She walked into his house. It was small and clean and smelled like coffee and old books. There was a photograph of his mother on the wall by the kitchen, a woman with his same steady eyes. They sat at a table that cost less than the centerpiece at the Greenwich dinner. He poured her coffee in a mug that had a chip on the handle, and she told him the truth. Not the curated boardroom version, the real truth, that she was terrified of being loved for her money, that she was terrified of not being loved at all, that her family had made her believe vulnerability was a flaw, and he was the first person who ever made her feel like it might be the only thing worth offering. And Marcus told her what he had not said at the dinner, that he loved her, that he had loved her since the night she told him she could not remember the last time someone asked how she was and actually waited for the answer. That walking away from that proposal was the hardest thing he had ever done, and he had done hard things. "But I will not be a statement you make to your family," he said. "I will not be a prop in someone else's argument. If you want me, it has to be just about me, not to prove anything, not to win anything, just me." She reached across the table and took his hand. "Just you," she said. They did not get engaged again that day or that month. They spent 3 months getting to know each other outside of the car, outside of the dynamic of employer and driver, outside of the long shadow of the Castillo name. He took her to his mother's grave and told her about the woman who taught him that character is what you do when compliance would be easier. She took him to a diner in Brooklyn where she used to eat before the money, back when she was just a girl with a patent and a dream and tomato soup that cost $4. When he eventually proposed, 7 months later, it was on the front porch of the Baltimore row house. No audience, no family, no ring actually, because he wanted to ask her before any object made it feel like a transaction. She said yes before he finished the sentence. Patricia Castillo did not attend the wedding. She sent a gift. Marcus returned it unopened with a note that said, "We do not need anything, but you are welcome at our table whenever you are ready to sit at it honestly." 14 months later, Patricia showed up at the Green Door in Baltimore. She did not bring the attorney. She brought a photograph of Elena as a child, one she had never given her, one where Elena was laughing so hard her eyes were shut. "I forgot she used to look like that," Patricia said. Marcus let her in. He made her coffee. And for the first time in her life, Patricia Castillo sat in a room where no one wanted anything from her, and no one was performing, and the only currency that mattered was whether you could be honest enough to deserve the chair you were sitting in. Here is what the story is actually about. It is not about a billionaire and a driver. It is not about a ring or a proposal or a family that tried to buy away something inconvenient. It is about the difference between proving love and offering it. Elena spent her whole life proving things, proving she was smart enough, tough enough, successful enough. And when she fell in love, she tried to prove that too, publicly, defiantly, loudly, as if love needed a stage and an audience. Marcus understood something she had to learn, that real love is not a performance. It is not a declaration made in front of people who need to be convinced. It is a quiet thing, a cup of coffee in a chipped mug, a door held open, a truth told without strategy. Keep the ring was not a rejection. It was a refusal to let love become a spectacle. And when Elena finally understood that, when she showed up at his door with no ring and no plan, and nothing to offer except the most honest version of herself she had ever been, and that is when the love story actually began. Not when she proposed, when she stopped performing. If this story did something to you, if it hit a nerve or reminded you of someone, or made you think about the difference between proving your love and simply offering it, send it to that person. You will know who they are. And if you want another story that does exactly this, that gets in and stays, watch this one next. It is about a woman who worked the night shift at a hospital for 11 years and the one patient who changed everything she believed about what she deserved. I will see you there.